Same United Nations, whose symbol is a top-down view of all the continents and the seas wrapped in the wreath, the crown of Zeus. We also have this unique concept of a dark sphere all over the floors of the Vatican. While this guy sits there with a Dagon hat, which was one of the Canaanite representations of Baal, preaching a gospel that says they just made up their own priesthood, ignore the priesthood of Christ, have their own ideas for how you get saved, ignoring the scriptures. I mean, we could talk for hours on the problems with the Catholic system and the Catholic Church. But why do they have this unique symbolism on their floors everywhere? This sphere, this dark sphere. They got it inside the courtyard, St. Peter's Basilica. Oh, by the way, you see this obelisk? They used to, I don't know why did they keep the Hermanubis statue in the museum? The same question I would have for the Vatican. Here in the St. Peter's Basilica Square, this obelisk that you literally transferred from Egypt, you used to martyr Christians on in the 2nd and 3rd century before you, quote unquote, became a Christian empire. But yet you just decided to keep that in the square. Literally, Christians were tied to that and beaten and killed to death and martyred in public view at the base of this obelisk. But they kept it there because, nostalgia.
Yikes.
In the courtyard of the Vatican, why do they have this ridiculously ominous sphere inside of a sphere that looks like a machine? And this is not the only one. There's one in Tel Aviv. There's one at the United Nations in New York.
Wow.
There's one in there's 3 of them in Dublin. Oh, and specifically the one in Dublin you can see the back side of it, so you can see the full design. You see, it looks like a Pokemon ball, doesn't it?
It does, dude. Yeah.
You got to catch them all. So it also looks like the power sign on all your devices. So this picture on the left is a hieroglyph from ancient Egypt. Above the hawk-headed representation of Ra is the sun, which has some sort of thing in the center of the sun. People have thought, oh, this is a strange depiction of the sun over the head of Ra. I say no. I say it's the actual eye of Ra in its actual depiction. So on the right-hand side is a picture from Wolf Creek Pass in Colorado in 2021, I believe, or 2020, November of 2020. And the weather cameras caught an ominous thing going through the sky that looks like a massive sphere with some sort of circle in the center of it. Hard to see over the camera. It even has a hot spot on it. Lens flares don't have hot spots that come and go. This has been seen multiple times in the past 5 years. Someone in Arizona just took a picture of it at night flying through the sky. This massive dark sphere. So I'm putting forward, Austin, that the Eye of Ra, the same God who the Egyptians claimed, who traversed the sky in the boat of a million years, the Vamana that they called the boat of a million years, meaning it's never coming down. I'm putting forward that this is the thing that's causing the eclipses. This is the thing that the representation of Kefa, the sun god of Ra, who is the beetle that holds up the black sphere in the sky, is actually what causes the eclipses. And this is why the world goes crazy for them. This is the all-seeing eye that looks down on all the activities of men. This is why they have little representations all over the world at the new year. They drop a sphere. This is why the Economic Forum, that satanic agency that's trying to take over the world, literally has the eclipse as their symbol. And this is self-explanatory. I'll just let you guys laugh at that one. This is why Helios of ancient Greece is carved onto a sphere. They worship the sphere everywhere. You see pictures of Zeus with the eagle staff holding a sphere in museums. This is why the sphere with wings and serpents coming out the side is a part of the artistic personification of Ra, specifically the Eye of Ra. Isis is the female personification in ancient Egyptian theology of the wisdom of Ra as the eye of Ra, who flew through the sky. That's why she has wings. Same with Hathor. Hathor was also... So Isis, the companion of Osiris rather than Ra, or Astarte, a deity of fertility and warfare, imported from Canaan rather than native to Egypt, is equated with the solar eye. So this historical description of this figurine that they uncovered in archaeology literally tells you that this was shared belief from Canaan. Isis, Hathor, another personification, female deity personification of the Eye of Ra. The deities associated with the eye were not restricted to feline and serpent forms. Hathor's usual animal form is a cow, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute. And this isn't making jokes against Hathor or calling her a cow, but like that has a lot of significance here in a little bit. Remember what they in Exodus 32? You remember when the Israelites were brought out of the Exodus, and then Moses went up for 40 days, Austin, on the mountain. And when he came back down, they were worshiping the golden calf.
Yeah.
It's technically not a calf. It's an Apis bull. And the personification is Hathor or Isis or the Eye of Ra or the wisdom of the serpent god, Ra. So it was an egregious offense for God to have saved them. And then after 40 days, them being impatient with Moses being on the mountain, they already decided to make one of the gods of Egypt they used to worship and start worshiping it again.
Right.
It was super egregious, right? So the Hathor's usual animal form is a cow, as that is closely linked eye goddess Mehet Weret. I can't say that word right. Nekbet, a vulture goddess, was closely connected with the Wadjet, the eye, and the crowns of Egypt. Same with Sirius, what the Greek would call Sirius, but it's Sothis. You've heard of Sirius, the dog star, the satellite company, saying that they claim they have satellite radio. Sirius, this is the idea of another goddess, includes Sothis, the deified form of the star, the same name, and Ma'at. Ma'at was the wisdom of Egypt from Ra, and the personification of cosmic order was connected with the eye because she was said to be the daughter of Ra. There's some different hieroglyphs, even with a Masonic tracing board of Sirius, and how serious they are about Sirius, all pun intended. We see it in modernity, and Sirius is everywhere, the five-pointed star. Here's Sirius to the Babylonians. The picture we saw earlier, the giant ruler standing before the others. And then Sirius version is Shakti, literally translates as the power or the might in Sanskrit. This is in the Indian culture. Her divine essence is venerated as a manifestation of primordial cosmic energy, given the association to creation on the elemental level. By the way, that word elemental, just as it's used in the Greek in the New Testament, it's referring to unclean spirits. It's not referring to like some sort of modern day scientific term. This is an ancient term. Whenever they talk about the elemental forces of the world in Galatians 4 and Colossians 2, it's talking about unclean spirits. And Shakti is often considered the feminine in form and is thus given the epithet of the great divine mother. So now we're getting to the idea of a goddess, female personification, that Shakti was connected to Brahma. Brahma is the Indian version of Ra. Just like Ra had these female forms, these personified female forms of the Eye of Ra, also considered the daughter of Ra. Now we see the female language of something that's connected with Ra, his wisdom and his power, and unclean spirits, who's considered also a mother. Artemis and Diana, same concept. They're the female personifications of the Eye of Ra. Same thing. This is very interesting because this particular quote from this ancient text, it says, the native Athenians, the Cropian Minerva, the island-dwelling Cypriots of Paphian and Venus, the archer Cretans Dictanon Diana, and the triple-tongued Sicilians Stygion Proserpine, the ancient Eleusinians, and some call me Juno. These are all the names that all these different tribes throughout the Middle East or the Mediterranean would be calling Diana and Artemis. And some call her Bellana, others call her Hecate, others call her Rhamnusia. But both the races of Ethiopians, those on whom the rising and those on whom the sun sets shines, and the Egyptians, who excel in ancient learning, they honor me with the worship which is truly mine, and they call me by my true name, Queen Isis. So this is directly, this is this historical book from Egypt directly, or excuse me, this Etruscan historical book directly tells you that all these different cultures had different names for the same female personification of Queen Isis to the Egyptians. In Jeremiah 44:15 through 16. We're reading about, this is mentioning Isis, Artemis, Diana, Astarte, all the same female form of the Eye of Ra being mentioned in the Bible. Then all the men who knew that their wives were burning incense to other gods, and all the women standing by, a great assembly of them, along with all the people living in the land of Egypt and Pathros, they said to Jeremiah, "As for the word of the Lord you've spoken to us in the name of Yahweh, we will not listen to you." Verse 17-18 says, "Instead, we will do everything we vowed to do. We'll burn incense to the Queen of Heaven and offer drink offerings to her, just as we, our fathers, our kings, and our officials did in the cities of Judah and the streets of Jerusalem." So this is that famous passage where they're baking cakes for the Queen of Heaven. And in case people have ever tried to wonder, well, who's the Queen of Heaven? The ancient people from all the different places I just mentioned in this previous ancient citation, they all knew right here from this particular ancient book called the Golden Ass, they all knew Queen Isis was the Queen of Heaven, the female form personification of the wisdom and the power of Ra, or Zeus, same consorts of gods, of pantheon of gods. They all knew who this was. This is why Jeremiah is reprimanding them for worshiping them. And they ignore Jeremiah. They're like, no, we're not gonna do what Yahweh wants. Instead, we're gonna do what we want to do, and we're gonna worship Queen Isis, the Queen of Heaven. Guys, the Bible is a spotlight on Israel, but it's existing inside of the ancient world. They interacted, they knew all these terms and all these people, all these ancient god names from different cultures. They knew who these things were. This was not a mystery to the Jeremiah. He knew that they were worshiping Artemis, or Diana, as the Greeks would call her, or Isis, as the Egyptians would call her, or Astarte, as the Assyrians would call her. They knew who these things were. A Queen of Heaven, a mother above. So Ma'at, as we saw earlier, is just the ancient Egyptian concepts of truth, balance, and harmony, law, morality, and justice. And the Ma'at was said to have emanated from the Queen of Heaven, who was the power and the wisdom of Ra. It was described as the daughter of Ra, but it was literally the doctrine. So like if you have, in Christianity, you have the doctrines that are taught from the Bible, that this is how you walk with God, this is how you show your faith in Jesus. If you had good Ma'at, that was how you served Ra. And that was how you acknowledged that his wisdom was from above. So again, in the days of Jeremiah, he's addressing this. He's having to encounter this and get them to worship Yahweh and trust in his wisdom instead of the wisdom of Egypt, the wisdom of Ra. So in Isaiah 47:5-7, this is what we read at the very, very beginning. Who's called the Queen of Kingdoms, daughter of Chaldea? A daughter is below a mother, right? So the reprimand to Babylon of the daughter of kingdoms, the Queen of Kingdoms, is that this is a reprimand to daughter Babylon, the daughter of Chaldea. That means there's a mother Babylon. Just like in Scripture, when it says, "O daughter Jerusalem" in Isaiah, or in, I think it's 2 Chronicles. In the same way, in Galatians 4, you have Paul talking about Mother Jerusalem. The prophets talked about Jerusalem, the city on the ground, being called Daughter Jerusalem. But then it's prophesied that the New Jerusalem, which is called Mother Jerusalem in Galatians 4:26, comes down out of heaven. So why do we see this synonymous language when it says that there's a daughter of Chaldea, a daughter of Babylon, who's engaging in sorcery and witchcraft and thinks that no one's going to stop her? And then there's also in Revelation 17, Mother Babylon is discussed. So I'm going to skip through some of these real quick because this is then Revelation 18:1-3. And this is John in the book of Revelation sees another angel descending from heaven with great authority, and the earth was illuminated by his glory. And he cried out in a mighty voice, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great." So Austin, here's a crazy question that Christians have asked each other for millennia. If Babylon is already destroyed back in like 300 BC, what is this talking about here? Something that's supposed to happen in the future before Christ Christ returns. Don't feel bad if you don't know, brother. Scholars have debated this for
Oh,
forever.
what was the exact question?
So, like in this passage here in Revelation 18, this angel, John's seeing this vision of what's going to happen in the future, and this angel shows up and cries out in a mighty voice, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She's become a lair of demons and a haunt for every unclean spirit, every unclean bird, every detestable beast. All the nations drunk the wine and passion of immorality. The kings of the earth were immoral with her. The merchants of the earth have grown wealthy from the extravagance of her luxury." So if the city of Babylon was destroyed in approximately 300 BC, what is this? Is there another Babylon that's going to be built? What is this talking about here?
Oh, great question. Yeah, I mean, I think I can context clues this so far and say that it still exists somewhere. It's just not where people think it is or know where it is.
Yeah, so wherever this thing is, but when it's quote unquote fallen is Babylon the Great. It says that she's become a lair for demons and unclean spirits. That's crazy, right? So in verses 4-7, it says, "Then I heard another voice from heaven saying, 'Come out of her, my people, so you will not share in her sins or contract any of her plagues. Her sins are piled up to heaven. God has remembered her iniquities. Give back to her as she's done to others. Pay her back double for what she's done. Mix a double portion in her own cup. As much as she glorified herself and lived in luxury, give her the same measure of torment and grief. In her heart she says, I sit as queen, I'm not a widow, and I will never see grief.'" So what is the source? And this is something I think is really important. So in Egyptian mythology and even in second century Gnosticism, which started in Alexandria, Egypt, they talked about all divine revelation and information coming from the source, from heaven above. We know that Gnosticism tried to infiltrate Christianity, but was against the scriptures and was refuted by many of the bishops in the first century. Irenaeus is one of the most popular ones in his book Against Heresies. He's refuting Gnosticism and their destructive and unscriptural, teachings that they were passing around. But they got it from somewhere. The idea of the Gnostic source has been around for a long time. It goes back to what's called Egyptian negation theology, and it goes all the way back to people giving credence, authority, and wisdom to the Eye of Ra. So out of the Eye of Ra comes magic and pharmakia. What does the scripture say? That there was one angel that did not get the same punishment and get sent to Tartarus before the flood. He's still left out after the flood. His name is Azazel, generically called Satan, referred to by the Egyptians as Ra. And from him comes this wisdom and knowledge that they're supposed to live by, which is not the same wisdom and knowledge as the creator of heaven and earth. From him, he's still producing the same deceptions from before the flood, magic and pharmakia, the cosmic order, which is what Revelation 18 says, this lair, Mother Babylon becomes this lair for unclean spirits and demons. That is what the word cosmos means in the Greek. The cosmic order was the sublunary world, means things below the moon, ruled by Satan over unclean spirits. The cosmic
wow.
powers.
That's crazy because I used to always think that replacing the universe with cosmos was good because it just means order. And now we got a new rabbit hole.
Yeah. Well, also when you have all the push for space, heliocentric model, and everything they say, and the cosmos, we're going to go to the cosmos, right? The whole thing is built on what's the Bible would refer to as a doctrine of demons, because it's against what the scripture describes as a firmament and closed reality. So if you're going to believe that, you're going to believe a doctrine of demons because they're selling you on something that they've basically taken the word that describes their realm and where they are in the air, as Ephesians 6 talks about. We don't battle flesh and blood, but against the principalities, spiritual forces in high places in the air. So this is the cosmic order. That's what they're referring to, is between the ground and the moon is considered the sublunary world that's ruled by Satan over the unclean spirits. The cosmic order. Also, this governing authority, which was considered the supreme wisdom and why you had to obey their rules and laws. And laws and ethics specifically through Ma'at. This supposedly comes from the patron god and why you had to be obedient to him. They had specific rules and ethics that they wrote down. Some of them kind of seemed a little bit like what you see in the Bible, but their judgments and their outcomes were definitely destructive.
That the same thing for Atlantis, right? The gods came and gave them all of the story goes, gave them all their rules, all their laws, and they like thought it was so good. And they're illusory righteousness, right? Like there's some of the rules are not bad, and they were considered just, right?
Right. Yeah, that's how you fool people because you think, oh, well, like we all know it's not good to murder. So like they got that murderer and they rounded him up and they put him in jail or whatever, or they hung him or whatever. So like you think there's a sense of justice, but meanwhile, as the prophets talk about in the scriptures, bribery runs rampant. And this is why America is in a bad spot. Like we match some of these reprimands from the prophets of old because just because you're living in luxury for a moment, just because you have a sense of justice that happens from time to time, at your core, when your judges are corrupt and bribery runs rampant, you have injustice that will lead to your enemies ruling over you. So this is where, pray for the United States, man. Pray for the people around you, the communities around you. Pray for solidarity because, like, I don't want to go to war against the Chinese. I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of people in China.
I just don't want to go to war at all, man. I think it'd be really cool if we could just stop going to war for a little bit. But
I agree too. I'm just saying, like, it's like the whole world has been infiltrated by something else I talk about in part 10 of my Investigating Babylon series, that I use quotes from historians talking about the Tower of Babel and how they basically, it was like an early form of communism that Nimrod encouraged the people to treat God as an enemy and worship the state. And it was like a first early form of communism. And if anyone has any political savvy or pays attention politically in international politics, for the last 70 years, the world has been, the governments of the world and a lot of nations have been infiltrated with this economic hybrid form of communism, where they don't do what they did with Russia, where Russia, they just destroyed their economy and had this iron grip on the people and just killed them and tried to say you can't worship anything, you can't worship any gods. But they've adjusted their tactics. So now they still have a communistic Politburo rule like the CCP, but they allow their economy to flourish so that people are distracted because they can go to the mall and buy shoes.
Yeah, for sure. I guess if we have to go to war with them, we'll have to wait and find out if Israel says we need to go to war with them or not. I don't know.
That too.
I'm playing, sort of.
That Israel's going to get a whole video.
Yeah, cool. Well,
yeah.
Tiptoe the line with grace on that one, brother.
Yeah, well, that one's going to be out on Lighthouse.
Okay.
They got. Yeah, have you seen the Israeli Supreme Court? Like, they're not worshiping Yahweh.
No, to say the least.
Yeah, they literally got. Anyway, yeah, they're worshiping Bel, they're worshiping Ra, they're worshiping Zeus. So here's the difference. This is the kingdom of God in Mother Jerusalem. This is the promise of Christ, that he's going to bring the kingdom of God at his second coming. And with that, you've got true healing and medicine from the leaves of the tree of life that are going to be made into medicines for all the nations of the world. Free health care finally is going to be here. You also have the hierarchy of resurrected priests and angels who are going to run around teaching everyone how to walk in the wisdom and the ways of Yahweh so that they stop killing each other and stop going to war. The ultimate point of authority will be the New Jerusalem, Mother Jerusalem, that comes down out of heaven. All the nations will come to her, not just for feast days, to celebrate the feast of God, but also to learn God's wisdom called his law. This is in Isaiah 2:2-5. That's where they're also going to have Yahweh's law taught with justice. They're also going to have their disputes adjudicated, as verse 4 in Isaiah 2 talks about. And, of course, they're going to bring their worship to the New Jerusalem. So right now, the world leans on the corrupt medicines that come out of the Eye of Ra, Mother Babylon. They lean on the illegitimate priesthood, the so-called gods that 1 Corinthians 8 verse 4 talks about. They're not really gods. They're unclean spirits posturing as false gods with their false authority. There's also a governing authority that rules the world, the wreath wrapped around the United Nations. There's the law and the ethics that tries to get pushed. Right now, it's in the form of climate conservation and everything that's wrapped up into that theft of taxation. And the expectation of your behavior if you're going to be a good global citizen. And also, in the occultic realms, in the underground, they're still worshiping the leaders of the earth. They're still worshiping Ra, the Eye of Ra, and Ra himself. Everything involved in this system is antithetical to the kingdom of God and Mother Jerusalem that is promised to return and throw down Babylon, so that angel in Revelation 18 says, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon," and it says it's going to be thrown down like a millstone. So these are the two contrasting worldviews that we see in the earth today. So approximately 1850 BC is the Book of the Heavenly Cow. Remember we talked about Hathor was a female personification of the Eye of Ra, also sometimes referred to as a cow. So this is like almost 2,000 years before Christ, 1850 BC. Ancient Egyptian text, thought to have been originated during the Amarna period, describes the reasons for the imperfect state of the world in the terms of humankind's rebellion against the supreme sun god, Ra. I'm going to put forward that this ancient literature from Egypt is depicting and explaining what happened at the Tower of Babel when all the world was worshiping Ra, who was called Jupiter, according to the Greeks. But then there was this chaos and this rebellion. And as a result, divine punishment was inflicted through the goddess Hathor, that is the Eye of Ra, with the survivors suffering through separation from Ra, which now resided in the sky on the back of Nut, the heavenly cow. So Nut is also another female form of personification for the firmament. You ever seen those depictions of Nut?
No, I mean maybe if I saw it, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like it looks like this long lady with long.
Oh yeah, of
arms
course, with the stars in
filled
her.
with water. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So that was what they personified as the firmaments who covered over the earth and held water within it, just like the Bible describes the waters above the firmament. But here's the important part. After this particular rebellion against Ra, now all the people were separated from Ra because Ra now resided in the sky on the back of Nut, the heavenly cow. Or if we translate it into the Hebrew concept, Ra now was in the sky or in the heaven on the back of the firmament. So the Book of the Heavenly Cow, this is stanza 46 through 55. It says, "Then the majesty of Nu," that's a separate god from Nut, said, "My son Shu, your eye shall serve your father Ra as his protection. My daughter Nut, you shall place him upon your back." And Nut replied, "Yet how, my father Nu?" And then said Nut, "Don't be silly, Nut." And so Nut became a cow. And then the majesty, this is why you see the sun god Ra always on the top of the cow's horns in the worship of the Apis bull in Egypt.
Don't be silly. So she became a cow. What?
That's right. Don't be silly. But this is what they did in their artistic stories of their gods, is they personified things, right? But they did have a definition for what these things were before they became a personification. So Nut, which represented the firmament that enclosed things, suddenly she becomes this thing that's considered a cow that Ra can ride on the back of. So what does this actually mean? Like, what in literal, tangible terms? Then said, these men said to him, "Have rebelled against you. We've come to show you that these might overthrow your enemies who plotted against those who created them." His Majesty proceeded to his palace on the back of this cow. Moreover, this is a few stanzas later, 99 through 111. "Moreover, guard against those magicians who know their spells, since the god magic, he is therein. Now as for the one who ingests them, there I am. The guardian of me originated not through greatness, it originated even before me. I commend them snakes to your son Osiris. Keep watch over the youngest of them, and cause the hearts of the oldest of them to forget their magical power. Yet they who act as they please against the whole world, using their magic which is in their bodies. Then said the majesty of this god, Please summon Thoth to me," so that he was brought immediately, and the majesty of this god Ra said to Thoth, "Look, I'm here in the sky in my abode." So the context, without going into the drama of the the soap opera that is unfolding in this book, the context is, according to Egyptian history, after some kind of rebellion against Ra, the people were then separated from being around Ra. And Ra went to live in the sky in a palace that he called his abode. And when the other gods came to see him, they had to come to him in his palace in his abode. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Okay,
crazy.
so it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
It sounds wild. And so then it goes on to explain. I'm just going to read the yellow words just for the sake of time. It says, I am Ra amid his Ennead, his entourage, that's the fellow gods, with magical power. So just like we saw from the Roman poet talking about Zeus in his starry enclave, high above the spreaded earth, in some sort of thing, he's sitting beneath a double-gated dome. In the Egyptian lore, Ra, amid his Ennead, which is also his enclave of fellow gods, his entourage, all of them have magical power. They belong into the flame, which is the Ba, the soul of fire. They have no eradicators among men, gods, spirits, and the dead, or anything in the whole world. They think that they're queen of heaven, unseen, and will never be moved. I'm going to go on to say, and so the flaming one who is brought into being in the sky, as for any able scribe who knows the divine words that are in his mouth, he can ascend and descend within the sky. Recite, and this is a song that they would sing inside this text. Recite, O you, that's Ra, to whom Thoth gives praise, while the dignity of heaven is upon you, and toward whom Shu extends his arms. May you save me from those two great and mighty gods who dwell in the east of the sky, who guard heaven and guard earth, and who are with enduring mysteries. So this is a song that they were teaching to worship Ra. By the way, Ra in Hebrew means evil. To worship Ra, they're saying, have the people chant, may you save me from those, may you save me, Ra. I'm going to try to translate easier. May you save Ra from those two great and mighty gods who dwell in the east of the sky, who guard heaven and guard earth, and who are with enduring mysteries. Who is Ra afraid of? Who are these two great gods in the east? Numbers 24:17. A prophecy from a bad prophet who ended up making some mistakes, but he still had an amazing prophecy that got recorded in Scripture. He says, I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star will come forth from Jacob, and a scepter will arise from Israel. He will crush the skulls of Moab and strike down all the sons of Shet. Zechariah 6:12-13. And you are to tell him that this is what the Lord of hosts says. Here is a man whose name is the branch, and he will branch out from his place and build the temple of the Lord. Yes, he will build the temple of the Lord. He'll be clothed in splendor and will sit on his throne and rule. He will be a priest on his throne, and there will be peaceful counsel between the two. This is a prophecy about Christ. Both of these are Numbers 24 and Zechariah 6. They're both a prophecy about Christ. He specifically says that someone whose star arises in the east, he's also called the branch. But in the Septuagint, he's actually called the Orient, which is another word for the east. Behold a man, the Orient is his name. The east is his name. So Strong's 395, this word for rising in the east is the word that's being used here. Matthew 2:1-2, the wise men who come to the birth of Christ, we saw his star in the east. Christ is being related to this star in the east as in prophecy, and the ancient literature of ancient Egypt has Ra living in a palace in the sky who asks all of his followers to pray that he's protected from the two great gods who live in the east, who guard heaven and earth. That's wild to me. That's wild to me. So back to the book of the Heavenly Cow. This is what I've said. This is the chant that he was teaching the followers of Ra, that they would pray for him to be saved from these more powerful gods. So what is the Eye of Ra? What is Mother Babylon specifically? What is this dragon's lair? We just read about Ra claiming about 4000 BC, that's after the Tower of Babel, he separated himself from mankind because they rebelled against him in this one moment. And now he decided to live in the sky above. And whenever other gods would come to see him, they had to traverse up to him. So in Revelation chapter 8, verses 6-9, detailing some of the destructive events that happened in the 42 months leading up to the return of Christ. It starts with the 7 trumpets, and the 7 angels with 7 trumpets prepared to sound them. The first angel sounded his trumpet, and hail and fire mixed with blood were hurled down upon the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, along with a third of the trees and all the green grass. Then the second angel sounded his trumpet, and something like a great mountain, burning with fire, was thrown into the sea. A third of the sea turned to blood, a third of the living creatures in the sea died, a third of the ships were destroyed. What is a great mountain burning with fire being thrown down into the sea? Just for anyone that might ever wonder what this verse possibly means. This is Mother Babylon literally being destroyed from its abode in the sky, the literal home of where the rebellious angel Azazel has been abiding this whole time. Austin, have you ever wanted to go to church and say, hey, if Satan's real, we believe God is real, but if Satan's real, where is he?
Yeah, of course.
Right? I mean, why are they taking tours to where he is? Like, why is it so mysterious that the whole world wants to, all of Christendom wants to claim that God is real and he's in heaven, even though they disagree on, the firmament versus heliocentric heaven. And they'll say, well, where's God? They say, oh, well, he's in heaven. He's real and his son's real. And they're coming back from heaven. They're bringing the kingdom of heaven, the new Jerusalem, a real landmass, a real city is coming back. But then you say, okay, well, where's Satan right now? And everyone's like, I don't know.
Right.
So I'm putting forward that he's actually been here the whole time, separated, living in his abode in the sky. It's literally a dark sphere, and it's what eclipses the sun from time to time, which is why the world worships the eclipse. It's the Eye of Ra. And it's prophesied upon the second trumpet, which is the beginning of the 42 months leading up to Christ's return. It's prophesied to be thrown down out of the sky. This is why the angel shouts, Babylon, fallen, fallen is Babylon. And it says in Revelation 18 further, like a great millstone shall be thrown down with violence. So this is a biblical creation model, as the Bible describes, 7 firmaments enclosing a flat circle of earth that's kind of encapsulated in water. You see that the sun and moon are in the firmament, the stars are above it, and then the New Jerusalem, as described in Scripture, is currently in the 3rd layer of the firmament, as 2 Corinthians 12 talks about. So this is a closer view of a fairly crude depiction, but shout out to Ken Heidebrecht hanging on his words for making this. The moon, the sun, this is where Mother Babylon is described throughout all the ancient cultures. The Eye of Ra, the home of Satan, the home of Zeus, the boat of Ra, the tulip of Brahma, who lives in the sky, the all-seeing eye. So there's an ancient book that became one of the most popular animes in the world. It talks about Laputa. By the way, Laputa means the whore. I thought that was pretty funny. But It's a living landmass in the sky. It's a city in the sky. One of the most popular, this is a Jonathan Swift novel. He talks about people that lived in Laputa that were obsessed with astronomy. They were lascivious people that were constantly having affairs, but they were obsessed with looking at the heaven above them. Even though they lived in a piece of land in the sky, they were constantly having their eyes to the telescopes to look at the heaven above them for signs in the heavens.
I bet, man. Well, imagine being that close. I don't know if you're going to bring this up, but I'm going to throw it out here. You know what else also has a floating landmass that's incredibly popular in like modern culture?
Oh, we could go through a ton of movies, but what's your thought?
Dragon Ball Z.
Yes, you're exactly, yes.
I mean, Dragon Ball Z is huge, man, and it's all about
Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball. And you got you got all these superpower people. That's pretty
So
hybrids.
in part 20 of my 42 series, I go through all the modern cinema and stories about all the spheres are everywhere. Everything's a sphere that's coming to Earth, that's going to destroy Earth, that's going to help Earth. In the modern Independence Day, the day the Earth stood still, literally the Sphere movie from 1997 with Sharon Stone and Lawrence Fishburne, and there's all these movies everywhere about a sphere that's coming to. There's a show on Netflix called Peripheral, and it talks about this great plague that wiped out like 90% of humanity, and it personifies it as a black sphere. It's in everything it's everywhere all the time. There's a black sphere that's going to do damage to the earth, or the earth has to be acquainted with. So this is where it gets really deep into the programming as far as preparing the world to accept the re-revealing, if you will, to the earth of Ra. So this leads up to the return of Christ. That the world will there. I mean, Jeff Bezos has already given speeches about us trying to build O'Neill colonies, high altitude O'Neill colonies, where they're wanting the elites to live in the air and traverse in cities that are floating in the air. He's not saying that this is impossible tech. He's saying this is what they're planning to do by 2050. So I don't know if you've ever studied O'Neill colonies or like some of the physics behind how they how they suggest they could float large land masses in the air.
I haven't. I'm assuming it's
it,
something electromagnetic, though, like always.
it is. Yeah, there's quantum locking involved, but there's also just simple air pressure if they have the right type of containment, so they can heat the air pressure and then it causes lift. So like I mean, it's very simple to more advanced like electromagnetism. But again, what are we talking about? We're talking about the same God, false God, that all the nations said had some sort of thing, some sort of device or gadget that he could control electricity with. He was the master of it.
Just to clarify for the audience, so like the entity itself is the black sphere, or that's some version of residence or transportation.
So imagine one of the slides. Again, I didn't have time to go into all the different ancient quotes from India about the Vimanas, but one of the ancient Vimanas talked about it being a massive sphere.
Okay, so like a form of transportation, and how it said that all the gods come down.
Yeah, and that's what Mount Olympus is described as a massive piece of land in the air that had its own forests and rivers and palaces for different gods, and it existed in the air. And they had the Vimanas to traverse back and forth to the land.
Yo,
so
and
this
then
is
Plato with the Atlantis thing, they say obviously that he goes, it ends. Whatever you think about Plato and who wrote that or whatever, right? It ends by Zeus going to Mount Olympus to meet with the other gods, then basically decide on the judgment on humans, and then it ends. So you think it's like a non-terrestrial,
I think literally at the Tower of Babel, this is why we go into this in the first episode of Investigating Babylon. At the Tower of Babylon's construction, it's not just a tower. It was a city also. It was a living quarters. And then again, that's the exact time frame of this Egyptian text I've been reading, the Book of the Heavenly Cow, which talks about there was this great mutiny against Ra, whom the Romans and the Greek historians would refer to as Jupiter at the Tower of Babel, and that they separated themselves from Ra because Ra went to live in the sky after that. So what do we read? What was the introduction to everything I was talking about today? Is that these rebellious angels that came down to earth and commingled on the earth with mankind, but many of them they started wilding out. They got judged by God. Only one of them was left over, but that one that was left over, he still watched all of his brethren get judged to a crazy judgment. Like they're in Tartarus, they're not going to see the light of day until they are hauled out before Christ and judged and thrown in the lake of fire. Like they missed the entire story.
That's a bummer.
Like, yeah, that's a rough judgment. It says in, I think it's chapter 14 of First Enoch, they cried. Like Enoch is watching them cry by this specific river because the judgment was announced to them, and they realized like that's gonna suck. Like they're all these. Imagine angels, a whole like 199 angels all crying.
And like I guess, so okay. I mean, do they ever get out for a period of time? Because obviously I've heard that suggestion.
Tartarus. So to everything that Enoch claims, in Second Peter and Jude, they're not getting out until the day of judgment.
Right. So they messed up, bro. And Azazel had a little bit more wisdom than that, I guess, huh?
That's right. So like basically Azazel didn't commit the same crime. I didn't have time to go into all the details, but that's why he's given a different punishment. So Samyaza and all the other rebellious angels, they took wives, but Azazel It doesn't. His punishment. It didn't say he took wives. It just said he taught various forms of deception and taught warfare and different things like that, right? But he didn't actually take a wife and copulate, create kids, and
right.
Right?
Yeah.
So very different judgment. And he's still left out, roaming around, right?
Prince of the air, huh?
Prince of the air. I think it's very literal.
It's pretty wild.
I mean, look, let's just put it like this. Say, we already believe if angels are real, they can fly anyway. If angels are real, according to the scriptures, Jubilees and Job 38, they were made on day one of creation and watched and witnessed all the rest of creation being made. Angels are considered to have literally the knowledge of heaven. They know how the creation was made. Many of them, according to the book of First Enoch, are placed in specific important places around the creation model to make sure things are continuing to flow properly. Like it's their job. So this is why they're reprimanded in First Enoch chapter 10. Like they showed the secrets of heaven to mankind, but it was out of order and it caused destruction.
Right, yeah, it wasn't that the knowledge itself was bad. It was like we should have found it on our own.
Yeah, because at the resurrection, you and I are going to get that knowledge because we'll be resurrected and glorified under the authority of Christ and living in the New Jerusalem. We'll probably get a tour like Enoch did of the entire creation model. There'll never be a glober again, by the way, at the second coming.
Yeah,
so, but these angels came down, man, and they mingled on the ground with. That means you could like go to their house, you could walk up to where they're living, knowing that this is like an incredibly powerful being he looks like you, but man, he's a little G God. Like he can do things you can't. And his original home was in heaven. So after the flood, Satan is still doing that. He's still for one, fooling Nimrod and getting Nimrod to collect all the people to build the Tower of Babel. So he's still on the ground with them. But then after the Tower of Babel, it's my theory, and from putting all this stuff together, that's when he went to live in the sky away from everyone, because he doesn't truly have authority over man. He has to deceive us. He can't, like we see, Christ can just tell him to get out of here. You know what I mean? Like you got no power over me. I'm not going to do what you want. Get out of here. You know what I mean? So like, this is the example that Christ set for us, but he has a place where he lives. He can't go back to heaven anymore. This is what Jude 1:6 says, the angels who sinned and lost their first estate.
Right.
They can't go back to heaven.
I guess another thing that's kind of crazy is this idea if it's like a form of transportation and it goes in front of the sun. He's specifically timing it so that it builds into the heliocentric deception, right? Like if it were to ever not match the cycle, then the whole heliocentric deception would really end overnight. Also, it's interesting of who. This is interesting to me. I won't go all into this, but like, who's the first civilization accredited with actually recording the Saros cycle, the eclipses? The Chaldeans, right?
Babylon. Yeah, Chaldeans.
Yep. Pretty crazy. It's like, was it even happening? Before that.
Yeah, right. But so that's where he would have to find a place to hide and still have a base of operation. Like this is very practical. This is why I say angels are real beings. Heaven above is a firmament enclosed area where there's land, there's animals, there's trees, there's rivers. I mean, Christ comes back on a real horse. Like this is the part where so many Christians, like, they make the idea of heaven and angels a non-corporeal thing. And that's just not what the Bible describes. The Bible
they won't even tell you what they mean or what they think. Like if you ask them, well, then what is it? They don't know. They don't like.
Yeah, they're afraid to, because whatever seminary gave them their pastoral license might revoke that license if they teach something way outside the lines, right? So like, there's a lot of fear involved in that. But ultimately, most Christians don't take the Bible seriously. They don't take the word firmament seriously. They don't take the descriptions of they don't take heaven seriously. When Christ said, "I go to prepare a place for you," and then when we see the New Jerusalem coming back, and that's the place that we inherit, that's the place he prepared for us, it's describing a real place, a massive, massive landmass with trees and mountains and rivers. And like, it's this is not a mystical, ethereal dream world. This is a tangible world that Hebrews 11 says the city of God has an architect and a builder. Like these are tangible terms. So Satan just mimics what God wants to do. He built his own city in the sky.
Wow.
Now,
Yeah.
the New Jerusalem is designed to come down out of heaven through the sky to land on the earth, sit between the Euphrates and the Nile. It's called the eternal land of promise. But he's like, oh, I need to get away from mankind, so I'm just going to build my home in the sky, and they won't be able to see me. But he can communicate to them. Obviously, he can come and go when he wants. I mean, he does it all the time. He even says that at certain points that he's going up and down on the earth.
Yeah.
When he's in Job chapter 1.
Yep. To and fro,
So
in and out.
basically, he's got a place where he goes and puts his feet up. Like he's a real entity. He has a place of strategizing. He has a place of how am I going to deceive the world better and more efficiently? And I already got them wrapped up in all this, eugenics and heliocentrism. So like, how can I further get them to kill themselves? Like he's got a place where he can go strategize. And it so happens he's had thousands of years to form this model that
Wild. I could talk to you for so long, man, but I don't want to keep taking your time off of because like what I was gonna say is obviously a big part of all this that I find very fascinating is I don't remember exactly how it's worded, but it's like the chief of the stars will basically rebel and go off of its orbit and that's where it talks about the center the nature of the stars will be concealed from the sinners and then so like to think about how that all fits in is pretty interesting, right? Like, is the heliocentric model actually part of the final deception, or is it not? I don't know, right? Like, because if that happens, heliocentrism dies overnight, right? Like, if the moon isn't where it's supposed to be, everyone overnight knows it's not true, and that would be crazy.
But you know how impressionable people are. Watch what happens with just a little bit of high-level science. I mean, this is what Revelation 13 says, how it deceives the people with calling fire down out of heaven. We can already do that with dew weapons.
Yeah, you mean like they just come out and say, well, there was a gravitational shift, and they could say whatever? Or
all they got to do is come out and confess.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they got to say, actually, we're enclosed. And this guy who's we're about to introduce you to, who's descending with this massive orb-like landmass coming out of the sky, and then gets off of that and steps up to the microphone. He's like, "Hey guys, I made you. And I just
exactly. And I've been here the whole time."
Yeah, some of you guys had some wrong ideas. You thought that we lived in the wrong place. Let me tell you that I created in the book of the Heavenly Cow. I didn't get a chance to finish reading that Egyptian text, but Ra claims to have ascended beyond the gods who created him, and now has mastery over all creation. So like it's just like I said at the very beginning. There's nothing new under the sun. The same lies are going to be repackaged. That's why in Revelation 13, the dragon who then the world worships, he gives his authority to this Apollyon character that comes out, so they all have to worship him. I personally think there's a time period before that 42 months starts where Ra has already been reintroduced to the world.
Wow, yeah.
They're used to it. He's the panspermia that showed back up. That's why NASA is continuing to rehash the panspermia lie, because they need their alien progenitor to come back and say, well, yeah, it's been a while. You guys were getting into a bad place, and I figured I need to come back and sort you out and help you out. And then he looks like a good guy, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but then at the 42-month mark, which I'm going to show you real quick, there's a point where God says, I've had enough, and I'm going to throw down your house from the sky. I'm going to throw down Babylon, Mother Babylon specifically, and it's going to be fallen and destroyed in an hour. And it's done specifically through an angel, Michael.
Oh, this is just to clarify for the audience. People were saying that you were saying Babylon was Egypt or something, and you're talking
this is a lot. This is a fire hose of information. I know.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, I've been saying that Ra, the patron god of Egypt, is also the patron god of Babylon, which would have been
there you go.
Ea, or to the Greeks, who'd have been Zeus, and they all claimed that their patron gods lived in a castle in the sky, so to speak.
Right, and could or did come down.
Yeah. And so here's the turning point. It's in Daniel 12, 1 through 3. It's also in Revelation 12, 7 through 10. Here's the turning point where it says, at that time, Michael, the great prince who stands watch over your people, will rise up. So this word rise up, and this is where the 42 months starts, because the word rise up is in the Hebrew, it's a military term for he takes action. So obviously Michael's not acting independently. He's an angel of God. God sent him. Actually, technically, Michael is under the authority of Christ now, according to Hebrews chapter 1. So Christ is going to send Michael and say, throw Babylon out of the sky. And this is where Babylon has fallen, which kicks off the 42 months. So this is what a lot of people, this is my understanding, this is when the times of great distress happen. And this is when Michael literally takes his military stand and fights Satan, which is what it tells you in Revelation 12, 7 through 9. Then a war broke out in heaven. Where's this? Is this above the firmament in heaven? No, because they called the upper atmosphere of the sky, they called that heaven also in the Bible. Where's Satan at? He's with the cosmos, the sublunary world between the earth and the moon, where Satan rules over the unclean spirits. Also in the Hebrew referred to as part of the heaven, because it's way off the ground. So Michael comes into our upper atmosphere. He comes into the heaven and fights against the dragon. And the dragon and his angels, that's his messengers, the unclean spirits, they fought back, but the dragon was not strong enough, and no longer was any place found in heaven for him and his angels. And the great dragon was hurled down. And that ancient serpent called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world, he was hurled down to the earth and his angels and messengers with him. So again, this is what I say, that the Aranos, the heaven in the Greek, it means both the spiritual heavens, the visible heavens, or the atmosphere, as a semantic use of range. So this is a little short timeline. If anyone's interested and they want to watch part 15 of our Investigating Babylon series, I go into greater depth about all the trumpet, bowl, and seal judgments of Revelation and their timing according to Scripture. So the beginning, as you saw, we read earlier, Revelation 8, 8 through 9, that's when that great mountain burning with fire is thrown down. Also in Revelation 9, 1 through 12, that's when Apollyon is let out. So at the beginning of the 42 months is utter chaos. Babylon, Mother Babylon, is thrown down like a millstone from the sky with great violence, because a war took place and Michael and his angels fought the devil and his angels. And as a result, there was no place found for the devil to exist in the heaven anymore. So he's thrown down to the ground. And this is why Revelation 12:13 says, woe to the earth and its inhabitants, for the devil has come down to you and he's full of fury and wrath. Because for the next 42 months, it's full-on war against humanity. And then Christ has to stop it when he returns. Now, this is a part of the judgment because of the nations of the earth are already worshiping Satan, and they will not repent. This is what Revelation 16 talks about. In spite of all these bad things that are happening, they refuse to repent of their idolatry and their sorcery. So this is where, in case anyone's wondering, why would God do this? God's not doing this. God's actually doing judgment on people that are they're trafficking children. They're doing mass corruption, murder, theft, all the things that you don't like. It's amplified during this time. And God is actually bringing judgment against those people. How does he bring judgment against them? He kicks their God's house out of the sky and destroys it. So now that God has to come live down on the ground and commingle amongst with them again. And he doesn't want to do that. He fears mankind.
Wow, crazy perspective.
Yeah, this is why Isaiah 24, 20 through 21 talks about two stages of judgment. The earth staggers like a drunkard, sways like a shack. Earth's rebellion weighs it down. It falls never to rise again. In that day, the Lord will punish the hosts of heaven. That's the armies of heaven above and the kings of the earth below. So he's not punishing his good angels, the armies, the good angels that are his armies in heaven above the firmament. He's punishing bad ones, the hosts of heaven above and the kings of the earth below. So in Enoch 53, 3 through 5, it talks about how when Satan will finally be judged, he's wrapped in a great chain. We see that also in Revelation chapter 20. Also, he's finally thrown in that hole in the ground for 1,000 years after he's wrapped in a great chain. And Michael is the one that does this, along with all the unclean spirits that are subjected to him. They're also punished at that time as well. This is Enoch 54, 6. But just like we see in Revelation 21 through 3, we see that this is the one that, a great angel coming out of heaven wraps up Satan, puts him in the abyss for 1,000 years. So this is there's so much more here. I'm just trying to go through this quickly, but this is why Ephesians 6 tells us, guys, that our battle is against rebellious angels and unclean spirits. We're not fighting men. Men are deceived by these things. We must love and pray for mankind. Pray for those who persecute you. Show love to those. Forgive so that God may forgive you, just as Christ forgave us. This is the admonition of Scripture. But we also have to know who the enemy is, and the Bible, in my opinion, tells you where he is. The Queen of Heaven is the personification to Egypt, Babylon, and Greece as the Eye of Ra, the abode of Satan. So this is the overarching story of the entire Bible, and this is the end of the presentation. I know it's a silly picture using the Death Star, but like this is what we're talking about. If I could just put it on a little meme, this is the story: Mother Babylon versus Mother Jerusalem that's on the way. Mother Jerusalem comes down through the firmament. It's a landmass approximately 1,500 square miles. Coming down through the firmament. It's called the City of the Righteous. It's Zion, comes down out of heaven. It's the house of the Father. And there's something in its way. So that has to be moved out of the way. And it's the home of Satan. So that's, in short, that's a huge overview of our Investigating Babylon in 42 series. And if you want more details, we have probably 60 plus hours between the two series that you can dig in. And ultimately, though, Austin, think about this. If the Bible's claims are real, and we live under a physical structure firmament, and there's multiple layers above that where the Almighty lives and his angels, and at some point in the future, he's going to come down to the earth and tabernacle on the earth with him and his son in their house, and cause peace to be on the earth and people stop killing each other, then you would want to create a model where people don't even believe heaven's real. Where you would ask the average Christian, where's heaven? And they can't even tell you. And they're never expecting to look for the enemy of the Bible there. Because for one, they're told not to look up anyway.
You know what's really crazy, bro? When you were saying all this, like we're discovering that this quote unquote GPS, it makes meridian corrections and all this stuff, but that it immediately cuts off at a certain altitude. They don't even track it, and then the actual ability to track its speed and altitude cuts off at a certain point. Like you're not allowed to actually do anything up above a certain point. So that is what makes it super fascinating as well. Not only are we kind of not told to look up, we're disconnected about what we are seeing when we look up. Like you are not allowed to go up at all. Like, right. It's pretty crazy.
That's right. Yeah. So I mean, there's like, if you have this perspective, guys, just test it. Don't, test the scriptures up on screen tonight. Test the citations up on screen. Go do your own research. Don't believe anything I say. This is something I've been working on since 2015. Since I came to the understanding that we live on a flat, stationary, firmament closed creation model. I then immediately started asking, okay, where I know where God is, where's the enemy? And I started to try to figure. And then I remember by 2017, I'd already formulated this theory because I'd done all this research, and I realized how history had already told us where this patron god lived the whole time. And is it possible that he's still there? If I took them seriously, I mean, these are people that created the pyramids, they created their own automatons. These weren't dumb people. They also had prophets who heard from God. So like, if I were to take them seriously, is where they claim this patron god, is he still there? Revelation, the book of Revelation that speaks about future events seems to say he is. So, Austin, do you remember when Christ was tempted in the wilderness? Mm-hmm. So like Satan showed up and offered him 3 temptations. So you remember like the first, like depending on if you're reading Matthew or Luke, the first and second temptation are kind of flip flop, but like the first temptation was turn these stones into bread. You're hungry, turn these stones into bread. You know what I'm saying? And Christ was like, no. And then he said, okay, then Satan took him to the top of the temple, the roof of the temple, which is a really tall building. We're talking like 5-story building. And said, he misquotes Psalm 91 to Christ and says, God's going to protect you. Throw yourself down. And Christ's like, nah, man. And then it says he took him to a really high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world at a glance. And says, if you'll bow down to me, I'll give you all these kingdoms. And Christ says, no, get away from me, Satan. So what really high mountain, even on a flat earth, what really high mountain allows you to see all the kingdoms of the earth at a glance?
That is a pretty interesting point, bro. If the mountain is up in the sky.
And what's more, that final temptation says the angels had to come and minister to Christ after Satan fled. And I would posit that it's because they had to get him down.
Wow.
So do you think Satan, when it says Satan took him to a really high mountain, even if it was a terrestrial mountain, do you think he like grabbed him by the scruff of his neck and just picked him up and yanked him?
That's pretty crazy. I've never thought about it. I've never even thought.
You think they went on a 20-day hike to the nearest, tallest mountain in the region?
He said he popped up in his whip, man.
Or do you think he showed up in some sort of Vimana?
That's pretty crazy. And then
So all I know is in the next chapter, when Christ, and this is where a lot of people, they've made historically, Christian pastors have made inferences about what these verses mean because they can't explain either what mountain allows you to see all the kingdoms of the world in a single glance. They don't know, right? Because they're not using the historical perspective of who Satan was. He was Zeus, who lived on Mount Olympus, right? So they're not using the historical perspective. In Luke chapter 10, when he's talking to his disciples, and they're excited because he had sent them out to go minister to people, and they got to cast out some unclean spirits. So his boys come back, and they're all excited, and they're like, even the demons are subject to us. And Christ says, do not be excited that the demons are subject to you, but be excited that your names are written in heaven, because I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. A lot of people will say, oh, see, it must be talking about like when Satan got cast out of heaven, before Genesis started. But that's not in the Bible. Satan didn't get cast out of heaven in Genesis chapter 1. It was when he descended in Genesis 6 with the other watchers and started doing rebellion. And then he's been on the earth here ever since. And it's not a third of the angels of heaven. That's poppycock. It's just him now. His boys got locked away. Like he's by himself. He's made himself out to be this big boogeyman, but he's not. He's alone. He's scared of us.
Isn't that actually kind of what it says too? Is that when people see who was behind it all, they're gonna like kind of be like, "What? You're right. The guy?" Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, and so Christ is telling his disciples, like he's saying, "Look, don't be excited that you can cast out demons," because he spoke to their leader and told their leader to get away from him, and he said, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven." Why? Because 5 chapters earlier, Satan took him to a really high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the earth. Is it possible he took him to Mount Olympus in the heavens, in the skies, and then when Christ said, "Get away from me, Satan," he had to flee, and so he fell like lightning back down to the earth and got away from him. And then the angels came and ministered to him to bring Christ back down to the ground. I know it sounds a little fantastical, but guys, I mean, this is the historical narrative of the biblical world and the story where it takes place. The same Christ who could walk on water after his ascension, after he was glorified and resurrected, he floated up into the firmament, and promised we would have the same type of bodies at our resurrection. We can move like the angels. Little g gravity is not a big deal anymore. So I just want to encourage folks, guys, read the Bible. It's much more relevant than you've ever known, and it'll save you from the deception that I feel is coming down the pike in the next 50 to 70 years.
Nice. Yeah, what's also crazy is I've been thinking about this quite a bit. So when you think of the Enoch thing or something about the order of the sky changes, then basically they're gonna have to come out and whatever it is, the deception is going to absorb a more accurate depiction of the realm, right? And it makes you think, well, that means flat Earth doesn't save you, which I've been saying for a long time, right? It is important though, and so I was thinking, well, the creators clearly, Yah has brought this up and made sure people found out, and maybe it's to give you ample time and opportunity like understanding the cosmology, and then actually, as believers, get back to understanding the true context, the true description, so that you are prepared for the deception. Because just the fact you found out that the earth isn't what they said isn't going to protect you from their deceptions. And that, I think that seems pretty common sense. But you can see there's a wide range of people that believe things that are all over the place in flat Earth. So.
Yeah, if it wasn't for understanding cosmology and the truth of it, I would have never, none of these scriptures would have stood out to me. Historical quotes, the historical claims wouldn't have stood out to me. So yeah, it was 2015 was a big year for me too.
Let me run through
Austin real quick. Do we have some questions?
We have a few through the chats. Yeah.
You mind if I go use the restroom real quick?
No, of course. All
right, man. I'll be right back.
Cool. Let me actually go through here. I wonder, I should actually play a song so I can do that as well. Because he's a trooper. He's down to answer the questions. I'm going to, if you super chat a question, we'll go through them. I'm also going to go use the bathroom really quick. And I'm going to just play my song real quick as a bathroom break type of thing. Still playing it. I can hear it. You guys might not can hear it. All right, what up, fam? So, welcome back. We'll go through some questions. So, yeah, as you guys see, finishing up a new setup. We're going to start getting a schedule out, a calendar out. A lot of appearances coming up. People asking about, we're going to actually really do a review of the InfoWars debate probably tomorrow night. So you don't want to miss that. I'll get it posted. I'll start having my streams posted in advance so you can see when they're going to be. We'll always be on time. We're going to get that all ironed out because normally it's very sporadic and random. Shout out to all the people here. We've been floating right around 1,000 the whole time across platforms, so that's awesome. Shout out to everyone that's donated and supported. Kofi.com/Witsit right there. It'll pop up. I'm working on some new things with that as well. And also you can check out witsitgets.com. That is in its infancy, if you will. We're still kind of putting that together, but that's going to be a really cool website, and you'll be able to get to the Misfits app there as well. And I want some feedback if you guys like that. If you don't like the Misfits app, we can congregate other platforms and find a way to maybe, it's just difficult to monitor, and that helps monitor who is still a member and stuff like that. So cool. There's just a few things, and I think that this is some crazy gravy. Some people may think some of it sounds crazy, but I mean, when you really start to figure out that the scriptures are incredibly accurate, incredibly true, historically accurate, literally true, and then you just take the Bible out for a second, you're going to see this reoccurring theme and story all across the board. And the Royal Astronomical Society introduced the lie of dinosaurs, and not that there were maybe not crazy big beings or animals or something to that effect, but the dinosaur story they told us was a lie. And the Royal Astronomical Society introduced this lie mid 1800s. Why? Because a bunch of people were finding giant bones, and you can just look up newspaper articles all through Florida, all through the Middle East, all through the Southeast, everywhere in America. These giant bones are found. There's still giant mounds. There were giants. There were giant beings. And people may think that sounds crazy, but the evidence is pretty overwhelming for giants and a massive cover up of the giants. That being said, okay, there's the scriptures checking boxes again, but again, it's not just the scriptures, right? And so what we're starting to uncover is that history is way crazier than you think it is. And there's a group of people who have kind of got the real history to themselves, and they know how crazy history is. And they use it to their advantage. And of course, there is one specific group of people that claim to have like the world's history locked up, and that's the Catholic Church. All right, my boy's back. Let me hop over here. Up here. All right, what's up, brother?
Hey, thanks, man.
Yeah, no, I took a bathroom break too. Played a song. So cool. Thank you so much for being a trooper, man. Because it's a long.
No, I want to thank you for letting me actually talk, because I've tried to share this on other in other places, but it's so much information. So many people, like, they just can't handle the 4 hours of just like, it's because a lot of it's stuff that they've like heard vaguely, like they've heard of these terms and these names, but they've never actually had anything explained to them. So it still comes across as new information. And the average person, they only absorb 10% of new information the first time. So like, I just want to give you a big shout out. Thank you for letting me actually go through all of it. And even though I condensed like 30 plus hours into 3.5, 4 hours.
Of course, and plus people have millions of questions, but no, I'm glad you came on, man. You're welcome on here whenever, brother. What's crazy is we did float around 1,000 live across platforms the whole time. So we actually had pretty impressive retention. I mean, I guess people could have been coming in now, but we had retention of the audience around 1,000 the whole time. So pretty cool. All right, cool. So we'll go through some of these questions if you're down. And
yeah, that's fine.
I don't know how many questions for you are in them or what, but Justin Johnson, thank you for the $25 tip. Love you, brother. Love you too, man. Thank you. Always supporting the channel. Care for you. You're doing such a great job keeping calm and carry on. We are on a biblical journey. Thank you for the $10 tip and the kind words. A lot of people are giving me a lot of grief about InfoWars. I wasn't like aggressive enough and all this stuff, but whatever. Thank you. RG the Artist, hey brother, thank you for having Sean on your show. I have loved Kingdom in Context for a while, so I'm a big fan. I know this is going to be a great show. Hopefully this $50 will help with your baby costs, and I wanted to make sure you did get that other money order. I don't know. If it's in my P.O. box, I haven't got it yet, but I'll check. I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, but I'll let you know if I do get it. Thank you for the generous tip on Ko-fi. Ko-fi is pretty good. It just has the Stripe processing fees. I pay for the little membership or whatever, so it's not that bad. But thank you, and he shouts you out. Said he's been watching you for a while, so he's a big fan. RG, the artist. All right, great to see you and Sean visiting. You guys are legends in the kingdom. Glory to Yah. That's Run Boston Bear. You know who that is?
Yeah.
Nice.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he's super cool. We call him the mayor of Flat Earth. Thank you for the $50 tip. Very generous, brother. Thank you guys.
That's awesome.
Vader Bear signed up to be a miswit. Welcome to the water tier, brother. Thank you for being a miswit. It's been a minute. I love you, bro. Where you been? Your theology is dumb. Awesome stream. 2 of the goats. I don't want to be a goat. I don't know about you, bro. I don't like goats like that. Goats are actually pretty funny animals, but it's funny that we call people goats. But I want to see Sean debate Harrison, since Harrison claimed he knows more about Yah than the Bible, or more than Yah about the Bible. I'm guessing he's saying, or more about the earth than Yah in the Bible. I don't know.
Did that guy really claim that Harrison guy?
No, but did you hear what he did claim, that the idea of like a a flat Earth in like a terrarium is childish and something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, that's to me it's like, man, how much of our words will we like when we're mocking what the creator made, even if it's innocently, like I just pray that God shows them mercy, you know? Cuz
You know,
like he made it for us. You know, it was a gift to us to live in. And there's just the lack of yeah, but see that's the fruit of bad doctrine, like of doctrines of demons. So you believe in a model that is so different from what the creator describes. The first time you hear what the creator describes, you mock it. That's the bad fruit of doctrines of demons.
that's crazy because that's almost everyone's initial reaction.
Yeah.
Crazy. I wasn't too like I wasn't put in public pressure or anything like that. I was just listening to a song, so I wasn't really like that. But I get why people are, and like instinctively, you're like, this sounds kind of out there, even if you're being
I,
chill about it. Yeah.
I felt embarrassed because you know, it took like less than a week and I had looked up the definition of the firmament and that caused me to realize how often it had been talked about in the scriptures and how it was called heaven and I felt embarrassed because I was like, how did I miss this all this time? Like you know, it's like and then it becomes like, how do I talk to other Christians about this? Because clearly everyone else has missed it too. But then I started to think to myself, did they miss it? Because I started to realize like preachers don't encourage people sitting in the pew to actually look up the definitions of these words.
Yeah, like not, and
So
then turns out you need to do that with almost the whole thing.
you do even words that you think you know, like heaven, like you just go ahead and just take your time and look up the word, right? And it's amazing, man, because people, even pastors, they don't look up the definition of these words. They just assume they know what it means.
Have you heard of the they're called Baptist bias or something, but this guy is known as like a hate preacher, Anderson or whatever. He went viral for like
Oh yeah,
yelling at say again?
Stephen Anderson. Yeah, he jumps on top of his podium and shouts at people and kicks people out of his church who don't believe in the Trinity and makes a scene and a spectacle. And yeah, he
So
actually at one point he got in trouble with the media back in like 2018 because he had like wants God to judge all gay people or something like that.
yeah, it was really, really aggressive about gay people. And then he went viral for like kicking a guy out for saying a prayer, wanting a prayer, but I mean I think what actually happened apparently was this guy came up with a prayer he had written on a piece of paper and wanted to like take the mic and say it, and he got mad. But anyway, they're trying to set up a conversation with me, but it would be like a hostile
Bro,
about Earth.
make sure your mic is turned up loud and be prepared to interrupt him if you want to be involved in that.
I don't know if it would be wise that I do it. I don't know. I mean, in a way, you may can expose them, right? I don't know.
I mean, you just be prepared for lots and lots of denigrating statements and mockery um and of course at some point for him to lose his temper because that's what he does every time.
Right. I'm used to that. I think it's really sad that I would have to do it with a preacher, one who calls himself a preacher, right? But
Oh,
I
you've
think
seen my channel. You've seen the interviews we do. Like these preachers lose it.
it's crazy, man. And I'm kind of wanting to progress my thing past that now. Like I feel like I've been in the trenches long enough, you know. Like I've dealt with that long enough. People that don't know a fraction of the stuff I know, calling me stupid and create like I want to just migrate past it. I think more people will wake up, listen to me, keep it amicable with Infowars than some crazy throw mud
Yeah.
around thing. But I'll
Yeah,
pray
I
about
feel
it.
like with InfoWars, if you'd have gotten assertive, they would have turned it around as, oh, this crazy aggressive flat earther.
I know, and then he would have started interrupting me and really taking advantage of the format. I feel like I still was able to lay out information uninterrupted for the most part because I was just being so. I wasn't even trying to use technical terms. I was, I'll cover it in my review I'm doing tomorrow. But like I was very generous, and if people don't see that, I don't know. I mean, it's like if you never watched me before or something. I could have obviously just like Achilles him, but it doesn't matter. I think he genuinely thinks the Earth's a globe, right? So, uh, okay. I was wondering if you heard him because I have the scythe. I'm going to do that or not. I don't know. Tim Carrasco. Blessings to both of you. Thank you for the $25 tips and the kind word. Tip. RG the artist asked Sean if he knows that in Kazakhstan there's a city called Aston, anagram for Satan, and located in the city there is this pyramid, and upstairs there's a private meeting center. And there's exactly 200 seats, and I'm pretty sure this is where the fallen angels meet.
I don't know about that, but I definitely know about the city. I covered it in part 18 of my Investigating Babylon series. And have you seen it?
No, never heard of this.
Yeah, watch this, man. This is crazy. Well, I can't show it to you because, yeah, maybe I can. Hang on, give me 1 second here.
This is
So
crazy.
it's
Though.
like the most occultic city that's ever been built in modernity.
Kazakhstan.
Yeah. Yeah, of all places, Kazakhstan. That's wild.
It is an anagram for Satan.
Yeah, so in episode 18 of Investigating Babylon is called Ball Top Towers. And I go all throughout the cities throughout the world that have ball top towers all over their architecture and all over their buildings because it represents the Eye of Ra lifted above the Tower of Babel. Wow. And so it's a part of their occultic architecture and their symbols. And so again, I skipped a lot of stuff tonight, guys. I gave you a very brief overview of years worth of research. So like, I'll try to see if I can screen share this real quick.
Yeah.
And show you what I mean. Is it showing it? There you go. So this is the city in Kazakhstan that they're talking about. Like there's pyramids on the buildings. There's, it's wild, man. There's ball top towers. There's balls on everything. There's massive pyramids. This is the pyramid he's talking about in the back with the meeting room at the top. Obviously you guys know that the dome is representative of the womb of Isis, and the obelisk is the phallic symbol going into the womb, with Satan's ball on top. It's just everywhere, man. The spires, the obelisks. This city is like, whoever built this, and it's brand new. So like, what's going on with that? Everything's brand new. So it's also in all forms of media, like even in movies, there's all these spheres that have to do with the movie. This particular one in the Tomorrowland movie was like the sphere. It was in this scientific city that was in another realm, but it affected Earth realm because it preyed off their fears and created self-fulfilling prophecies.
I so like saw a good amount of that.
Yeah, you remember that movie?
Yeah.
It's like a Tower of Babel with the sphere at the top. It's all the same symbolism everywhere. These ball top towers are everywhere, all across the world, all these different cities, all the Capitol buildings, artwork, everywhere. It's what Atlas is holding up on his back, all that stuff. So, yes, tell the questioner I'm familiar with that, and I have heard about them. I can't verify, like, Satan is meeting them, but But Austin, you remember me telling you, like, I've been involved with this Lighthouse project for like 4 years now.
Yeah.
And, so do you remember me telling you that in the first year, like when I went on Rob Skiba's show to talk about it, back in like 2019. So that night, somebody called me. Rob Skiba gave them my phone number. So somebody called me and introduced himself and said he was a pastor from California, and that he and another group of pastors were the quote unquote spiritual advisors for Donald Trump.
I do vaguely remember this. Yeah.
Remember this? And so then I talked to this guy, and he's like feeling me out, right? He's clearly vetting me because he would watch that show, Rob Skiba's broadcast, announcing this new social media called Lighthouse. And they thought, well, this would be a great place for Donald Trump to go to since he had banned from Twitter. And so then these other preachers call me like 2 or 3 days later, and I had like an hour and a half conversation with them. And they were telling me about like how they minister to President Trump and pray for him and stuff like this whenever they were around him, which wasn't very often, by the way. And but they were saying that they claim that he was visited by Satan when he first got into presidency. That Trump was taken to a place where there was a meeting. It wasn't in this pyramid in Kazakhstan, but he was taken to this place where there was a meeting, and in the room at the end of the table was clearly the alpha dog. And if you guys know President Trump's personality,
Pretty
he
alpha.
like alpha dog, right?
Yep.
So like he could tell the vibe in the room was all these high-leveled, high-powered people and leaders. They were all looking at this one dude. And Trump said it scared him to death, and that's what caused him to turn to Christ.
I do
Because
remember this. Yeah,
he says he genuinely felt like that was Satan, and like that they were basically in trying to intimidate him to say like, you know, you're going to do what we want. Like, here's the real power structure. You're going to do what we want.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And then he
Yeah.
still just goes around and basically works on behalf of Satan. So I don't know.
Yeah. And supposedly it wasn't anyone like Trump would have recognized if it was like a Rothschild or royalty from the Brits or something. Like, it wasn't anyone he recognized or knew. And, you know, supposedly he's already a power player before he ran for president, so he knew like everybody. But it wasn't any recognizable world leader. It wasn't the Pope. It wasn't it wasn't, you know. So who knows? But clearly everyone feared this guy, like super fearful, and just whatever he said, that's what happened.
That's a crazy story, man.
Crazy, man. And I'm sitting there going, and so these pastors are telling me this because they're trying to tell me that the battle for good and evil is real, and the enemy wants to control communications so they can stifle truth. And I'm like, well, yeah, no duh. That's why we built Lighthouse. Like, that's literally what motivated us to try to do this, is because we know that they're trying to censor truth. Like, we, you know.
That's crazy, man. I don't trust Trump at all.
Yeah, I personally think that I'm confused with the narrative with him, because there's so many things that if he was legit, I'm like, why haven't they already, you know, tried to do something to him?
Yeah, it just is,
If
yeah,
he-
I mean,
if he
you
was-
know, how he handled the whole situation, bro. And he's still running around bragging about that situation. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. On one of my recent streams, I talk about how they're giving him the crown of Jerusalem, and then they're giving him the menorah, and it calls him the Prince of Peace. It says, we give this menorah to the Prince of Peace, Donald J. Trump, and it has Isaiah 9:1 quoted on it. Like, that's some weird stuff to me, bro. And I don't.
No, you're right. That's like par for the course with a country that claims to believe the Bible but rejects the prophets in the Bible. Of course, they're going to abuse prophecy and name some man that's some dude that's going to be dead in a couple of years anyway. So like, it is weird, man. It's a weird obsession on both sides, right? So you got people that are deranged over him, that want to accuse him of everything and make up charges, right? Versus people that unnaturally push him to the top. And you're like, well, how's that work?
Borderline worship him. It's like very polarizing extremes.
Yeah, it's really odd.
Well, I think he's scripted and that he's gonna win, but we'll see what happens. I think it's all fake, you know. So we'll see what happens, bro. If you asked me who I think should be president, like if I was to pretend it was real or something, like obviously Trump's better than Biden, right? Like logically speaking, but there are arguments that he could be more of a threat because people love him so much. Like, even the people that voted for Biden, like, don't take him serious, right? Like, they're like, he's a senile crazy person. They voted against Trump. They didn't vote for Biden, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Trump, it can really get something done if you wanted to.
Just the so you remember back in 9/11 when I don't know if you followed politics at that time, but I've always been kind of a nerd. But basically, the general discussion after 9/11 in 2002, leading up to 2003, before we invaded Iraq, was they said, "Oh, President, Bush Jr. had political currency, and he can probably go after Saddam Hussein." So this was the talk, right? Because of what happened with 9/11, they were going to parlay that into justification that was approved by the populace, so we can go to war in Iraq. And this is where you have like Dave Chappelle making fun of this in his parodies in the Dave Chappelle show, talking about, I got a coalition of the willing, Japan is sending some PlayStations. Because the joke was like he didn't really have support for this. The military industrial complex was pushing this, and they were going to go no matter what, and they were using the 9/11 thing as the springboard for justification, to which we all know the story on that. So I think personally the whole Biden thing is becoming the political currency for Trump to come in and do whatever he wants.
That's what I
Because
think too.
people are going to be like so hurting financially and socially. I mean, there's entire studies now about kids that aren't working and they're not going to school. They're just chilling. They're just gaming. They're not making income, and they're not even on OnlyFans. Like they're not doing anything. So like we've got a broken society on multiple levels, and we're starting to see all the effects of the Fauci ouchie juice come into fruition. And I think that people are going to be like, Trump's going to be like the hero that comes in and can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, I agree. It's set up for him to be the hero. Probably do some things that look good, but they're all going to have like some type of deception embedded, and that's why I'm saying it's more. He's dangerous, in my opinion. He's the dangerous one because he's good with his words. He'll say what people want to hear. He's just a salesman. He'll say whatever you want to hear. So and then people are going around, but he did say you can make the choice. It's like, oh, we're giving him points for saying that we can decide what goes in us. Like, I don't know. It's all crazy. We'll see how it
There's
goes.
a lot of city governors of states and mayors and county administrators that did not give people the choice. People were getting fired for their jobs. People were not allowed to go into grocery stores. People were, it was getting crazy, bro. It was getting crazy.
Was all
we literally
crazy.
moved because of it.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
We
It was all
live in
crazy.
the mountains where we are now because we had to get out of the city we're in because it was so crazy.
Dude, now that the whole thing is like they're arresting protesters for anti-Semitism in Texas, and I'm sure those protesters aren't great. They're like just like leftist college students, right? Doing whatever. Doesn't matter. They're arresting them in a conservative state in Florida, where I am, which is great in many ways, is missing the mark on that. That all started with Trump. Trump passed that. Trump passed the anti-Semitism, defining anti-Semitism thing, and I don't even know where we're going, man. It's a crazy time to be alive. I try not to get too into the politics.
How far they're going to take that anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism thing, because to its logical end, they have to persecute Christians.
Oh yeah, like and ban the New Testament.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because basically, this is where the controversy with the Christ is King thing came up, because like that is the logical end, is that Jewish people will be mad because they don't believe Christ is King, and they're going to think that you're dogging on because they don't just. You may already know this, but they are born. They're taught from birth to attach their religion of Judaism with their ethnicity.
Yeah.
So if you criticize their religion, they think you're anti-Semitic. So
But
it's not just.
What makes them special? Like we can't even talk about this too much, right? And that's what is so crazy.
Yeah,
but it's
this is what Islam does too, though. Islam does the same thing. They tell people if you must learn in Arabic, the Quran, and that Arabic is the true language, and they're actually racist about it. And that even though there's other countries that have large Muslim populations, they still encourage them to read the Quran in Arabic, and they'll tell them like, you can be brought in, but like Saudi Arabian Islamists, they believe that they're like the true race of Islamists, and they speak true Arabic according to what's needed according to the Quran, and that if you attack their belief set, you're attacking their culture and their ethnicity.
Yeah, that's convenient. It's a very convenient narrative so that you can just prevent criticism, right? So crazy world.
And by the way, we talk about the macabre, the Paradise Stone in Mecca in our Investigating Babylon series. If you want to check that out, it's in part 20, I believe. And it's literally, they believe it's from Mother Babylon above. A piece of it fell down. You know what the Paradise Stone is?
Why would they be worshiping it?
You know that thing that they do circles around at Mecca, that big square box? Yeah, so at the corner of the big square box, there's that black obsidian stone they call the Paradise Stone that people go up and touch and pray to, because the the traditional lore of that stone is that it fell from the god's home out of heaven.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And coincidentally, it's been attached to a cube. This is why in our 42 series we talk about Saturn worship, which is about the cube.
Yeah. And coincidentally, it's black, huh?
It's black.
I'm just saying, like you're talking about the thing in the sky being black.
Yep.
All right.
So
That's
to give you
crazy.
a more crazy, like, so I show in my part 20 of the investigative biology series and part 21, I show 5 different scientific ways that they could float a landmass in the sky, and with modern science that we know are aware of today.
I think I may have watched that with Kai. Or unless you covered the floating cities more than once.
I
We
did.
watched that. We were like, whoa, bro, this is crazy. You were showing
Yeah,
it
and it's
everywhere.
not even like that difficult. You just have to have the right conditions, and So, but the thing is, I think the structure that it's made of, like I showed from the quotes tonight, when they talk about Zeus sitting amongst his enclave under the double gated dome. I think it's like kind of like that metal sphere in the courtyard of the Vatican or out in front of the UN. That's like a sphere within a sphere. So I think like the livable landmass is inside of it, a clear double gated structure that's like a firmament style crystalline structure, because an angel would know what the firmament's made of. It's completely see-through, right? So from our vantage point, if it's passing by, we're just going to see the bottom of it, which is its foundations, until we got up at its altitude and could look at it laterally, and then we could actually see any kind of landmass. Otherwise, all we see would be a spheroid, the bottom of the spheroid, that would be its underpinning foundations, mixed with whatever type of, if it's just soil that's encompassing the bottom of the sphere, then it's just going to look black. So, but I think it's that material is what allows to hold the air pressure within the double gates, because it's like a pressure release system. The sun itself warms the air inside of it, which causes it to give it that lighter than air feel to make it rise. And then they can do pressure release with one of the gates, because it's double layered. And it's a whole design. I've put a lot of thought into this and a lot of effort of trying to figure out like how could this even be possible, and it's actually not that difficult.
That's wild, bro. I'm wondering
Yeah.
how high it is. Can we go up there and take pictures so we can expose him to the world?
If it does work off electromagnetism in a form of quantum locking, then it could change altitudes when it needs to.
No, yeah, I
Or
agree.
it can literally just let in more cold air and lose altitude, and then heat up the air that's contained in it and rise.
Yeah, that's wild. It's all wild.
So there's a variety of different ways it could be using either propulsion or levitation. But I mean, we're talking about like if if the Bible's true and talks about who Zeus is and who Ra is, we're talking about an angel, like high advanced knowledge, like what I mean. It's
Yeah, for sure.
he saw how the creation was made. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah, we found a thing that's similar to a patent that's for something similar to satellites, and what it does is it actually takes in ionization through the front, so just like in the air, even though it's really thin, and it just creates propulsion out the back, just perpetually.
that's one of the ways we use. That's one that MIT demonstrated a few years ago, where they had that little flat, looks like a paper airplane, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
got the sensors on the back of it, and it changes, ionizes the air and changes its pressure, and just
Crazy.
moves without any propellers, without any combustion. It just moves,
Yeah, man. Yeah.
and it's silent.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing of like, it's silent.
What's
So
crazy is
did you
is
see?
the story of the orbs that have been seen for a while. That's been documented for a while. Other
You see
transparent orbs in the sky.
that interview with now look, I know a lot of the propaganda gets leaked to the public intentionally, but I think they're intentionally leaking stuff to the public so that people can, like I said before, that my theory is that they're going to try to introduce, they're not going to call him Satan, they're not going to call him Ra, they're not going to call him Zeus. They may call him the Traveler, like in Destiny, the big orb that shows up. So it's one of the most popular games in the world.
Dude, I know, I've heard of the game, but yeah.
Yeah. So the point of the game is there's this big white sphere that shows up called the Traveler. But they may call him some unique name that's different than the historical names, but I truly believe they're going to reintroduce him to the world so the world's comfortable with him and thinks that he's here to help and all that stuff. And then he's actually pulling the strings behind the scenes once Apollyon shows up. Because that's his MO throughout all of history. He's always been behind the scenes puppet mastering and fooling people. Like I said before, according to the Egyptian record, there was a time when he realized I got to get away from mankind, and he separated himself from those who worshipped him because he was afraid of them because they could turn on him at any point. It's a legit problem, right? Like if you're a rebellious angel and you're trying to fool people and you realize, you know what, these humans are kind of harder to fool than I thought. Like I can fool them temporarily, but I can't. Here's the difference now since Christ is resurrected and become high priest. He's in heaven and has control of the Holy Spirit, which breaks through deception like that. So like at any point, Satan can't control how this happens. At any point, Christ can use the power of God's Spirit in his priestly position, drop it as a gift of the Spirit on the earth, as according to how explained in the New Testament, to bring a mind and a heart to repentance and wake them up from their stupor. Like this is a variable that he cannot account for. So you don't want to be in the room with a whole bunch of people that suddenly they may realize, wait a minute, you're actually evil. I don't like you. I want to worship the creator of heaven and earth because he's like, it's the love of God that draws people to repentance. And Satan's leading them into hatred, division, strife, and all forms of wickedness. It's like at some point, I think that's a variable that he has to account for. Like I can't be around these people. I just need to puppet master them from afar.
Yeah, it's all so crazy. I'm like, I don't know. How do aliens fit into this so that if he doesn't have his little buddies, right, and like, because I agree with you
I think the alien deception is just the Vimanas.
So yeah, but like I'm saying, does some entity come and say like I made you, right? Because they've clearly planted those seeds for years now that they created us, right? The aliens seeded us, the Anunnaki seeded us, whatever it is, and that's obviously like people would believe it now. I think people would believe it if some type of a metaphysical, supernatural type of being came at all and said, look, I've been sitting back, letting you guys be free. I helped make you. We made you. A pantheon of us made you, whatever. And now we feel like we have to intervene because, and then fill in the blank. They can do a million things. Asteroids coming, we had to blow it up with nukes. Aliens saw we use nukes. World War III starts, nukes are being used. We had to step in, you're going to destroy yourselves. A million things they can do, right? And
or it's the plot of Independence Day Resurgence. It's not just this plot; it's a couple plots of different movies, but that's the more recent one. Is he shows up? He's introduced to the world as a friendly, and here to help with advanced tech and healing and medicine, curing cancer or whatever. And then it's, oh, by the way, there's some not good aliens out there that when they find out about this place, we got to be prepared. Right, yeah. And so this is what's interesting about the book of Revelation, because it says that Satan deceives the kings of the earth, and they all give him his power for 1 hour so that they can fight Christ at his return.
Yeah, that is true. I've heard interpretations of it. But yeah, that's a great point. The alien would fit that. Like alien, they're not really going to be called alien, like right? Like it's going to be the Anunnaki god type story.
Yeah, I didn't get to go into everything, but that you're exactly right. The ancient Sumerian creation tell is that the gods came down from Earth and hybridized mankind from monkeys, and so this is the beginnings of evolution. Remember, there's nothing new under the sun. Evolution is not new. It's an ancient repackaged creation tale from ancient Chaldea, and about how the gods came down and manipulated mankind's genome to create men to help them to be smarter monkeys who could mine gold for them and help build their palaces and their ships. Yeah. And that they're going to return. This is literally the story of not just the Anunnaki, that they are going to return, but also Quetzalcoatl to the Mayans. They believe their gods are going to return.
dude, they've put it on mainstream television in the form of Ancient Aliens, which Ancient Aliens will give you a lot of truth. Like it'll say like, "Oh, look, that's not what we were told it is," and people are like, "Whoa!" And that's been over a decade. I'm just saying, almost everyone under 30, bro, they are very familiar with Anunnaki. I'm probably under 40. I
Yeah.
mean, majority of people, period. And it's like the younger generation is primed for it, bro. Like they think that they're woke. Pre flat Earth, it was like you were woke if you had heard of the Anunnaki or whatever, right? Like, but then flat Earth came out, and now that's just like
Yeah.
laughably a deception, and everyone kind of knows it. That finds out about flat Earth. But those who don't, I think they think that's I don't know. To me, that's what gets people right is because then you get to keep your materialistic view of things and evolution, and then you still like you have this advanced civilization or whatever that has evolved more and then made us or something. But anyway, that would be a big deception. If what if they absorb cosmology, they absorb a true history, right? If they come revealing truths and secrets and helping cure cancer or whatever, people are just gonna worship it, bro. Whoever it is, they're gonna worship it, bro. That's what I think is the biggest threat, probably.
They will worship it. That's what I was saying. And the Jeff Bezos announcement a couple years ago that the world's elites are seeking to get people, the future generations, used to the idea of living in the air in something called O'Neill colonies. And so, like I said, they're not saying we haven't figured out how to do this. They're just saying this is the plan for the future. They want the people on the ground to be more like the lower class of workers, if you will, like
So
miners, people that are making raw
Elysium.
materials. Fact, exactly. They want the upper class, the educated, the academias. Like you would go to college in the sky, and then you would come down to the ground to your job, and then so basically they would have like the idea that they're wanting is to have multiple habitable O'Neill colonies in the sky so that people can traverse to them so that you can save the planet, right? Because you got to get off the planet to save it so that you stop interfering with this atmosphere and with this ecology. And so this I don't think they're going to accomplish this for one. But in their wet dream, they want to have O'Neill colonies, and then I would perceive one of the inhabitable landmasses you go visit is a temple that they've built to the traveler whom you go seek for wisdom and medicine and advance and whatever. And he's also ruling over the people. And so you get the higher elites accustomed to actually interacting with him so that you can fool all the rulers and decision makers. But yeah, man, there are so many. Let me show you this real quick before we go, because I'm just going to skim through this. I'll put it on mute and skim through it. Um, because there's so much propaganda on this topic in all forms of media and cinema. So this is a 2016 Independence Day Sphere. This is a Kanye West video. Aliens, Sphere come to Earth, literally named ET. This is the the Apis bull in a huge ceremony. You probably already know about this. But in the ceremony, the Apis bull, the lights go out and a flashlight comes out through his nose or his mouth or something, and he points to this massive sphere rising up through a replica of the Tower of Babel
Wow.
at the Commonwealth Games of 2022. This is Event Horizon, where they go to a sphere that can change reality and let demons in. This is the Matrix. Everyone remembers the Matrix. The source on the Matrix is a massive sphere that he has to put his body back in to create peace. Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2, Massive Sphere was the ego of the villain. Fifth Element, the massive sphere is coming through space that's going to kill them all. And it's just this glowing orb that they're trying to, it's initially black. They shoot at it. It starts ablaze with fire, and a skull comes out of it. Starts heading towards Earth. They have to stop it. Rogue One. This is the moment where the sphere creates an eclipse specifically so it can fire its death
Oh
beam from the
wow.
Death Star. Rogue One. That's when it fires. Only when it eclipses, by the way.
Never watched Star Wars.
Yeah. This is a hugely popular game. It's called The Descendant, and it's about a massive sphere. This is this crazy movie called Attraction from Russia about this massive sphere that they're fighting in the air, crashes to the earth. Um, have you ever seen Bioshock? This is an older game.
No.
It's about inhabitable lands in the sky that you play the entire game through an inhabitable land in the sky, and it's all dedicated to Roman and Greek gods throughout the whole town. And it has a version. Anyway, it's pretty deep. It's crazy. There's another game about spheres called Life After. You have to fight them. The second outbreak's the same thing. More spheres attacking. Tomorrowland, the sphere that controls reality. They have to destroy it. This is the day the Earth stood still. A big, humans are using nuclear weapons. The sphere shows up to stop them. Avengers: Age of Ultron. Huge landmass is destroyed out of the sky. Even Star Wars, they award her with the sphere. Independence Day, again, there's two spheres. The actual movie sphere, and this particular sphere also can augment reality in a horrific ways. It was a horror movie. This is a episode of animated Marvel Avengers about a sphere. It's just everywhere. This is an actual show. It's like a what do they call those EDM shows?
Oh.
It's like a rave show, but it's super popular. This particular guy, Eric Prydz, and it's all based on Tomorrowland, and he has the sphere constantly behind him while he's doing his turntables.
It's funny because
it's
the whole lie of the Earth was a sphere as well, right? Everyone just constantly inundated with the idea of one.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. This is wild. This is called the heretic unity. And by the way, that was the goal of Babylon, was unity. They did not want to be spread about. They did not want to have different languages. They wanted unity. And they rejected God, so therefore they are heretics. And this is about a guy who goes, it's a special cinema game that he goes into see this massive celestial being who's dealing with the star patterns behind him, who then this is wild, man. Morphs into versions of Satan to walk up to him. And what he hands him is significant. So it's got like this nanotech material. The guy knows he's going to die. So he gets killed. And he grabs, so that, what you're looking at, that symbol right there on the package he handed him, is the phoenix, which represents Osiris. So this is all about literally an alternate world where Satan exists inside of this mountain as a supreme being who receives the codes for Osiris, for the phoenix.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. There's so much. I just assembled like a little short video for one of my teasers for this, just to show like how it's in all forms of media, and it has been for decades. They're priming, just like they prime people for 9/11. They're priming people for a sphere specifically.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's a giant sphere pop out of the sky, bro.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So there's a military pilot that went on Joe Rogan. This is what I was saying earlier about. I know that the propaganda is to release things into the public to get you familiar with it, and sometimes I think Joe Rogan is a huge portion of that because of the conversations they'll have on there. And they had a military pilot on there saying, I've got clips on it in my series, saying that they saw these UAPs, and one of them was a sphere, but inside this translucent sphere, inside of it was a cube, and that flew
I've
by.
heard that. Yeah, I've heard that
Speed.
by a few of them. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Like a lot. Like, there's been more than one of them that say that that's what it looks like.
And I just, yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence, man. I think the more that people lose their bearing on truth, the easier they are to be reintroduced to the ways of Babylon.
Yeah, I mean, people are basically just completely empty nowadays, so they're prime for deception, I would say. Let me run through these,
Wild.
see if there's any for you real quick. Just trying to help where I can. Much love and Jesus bless you. Flatman B, thank you for the $5 tip and the kind words. Good to meet you last week and chat for a while. Appreciate your insights. Gave me a lot to think about. Keep crushing. Yeah, November. It was cool meeting you in California, bro. Much love. Glad you enjoyed our convo. We talked for like so many hours. It was crazy. I'm like, dude, I gotta go. I forgot. I lose track of time when I hang out with truthers. Stormy, do you know if saying amen after a prayer is invoking Ra?
No, that's Zeitgeist theology. So Zeitgeist theology was debunked multiple times. It came out back in like 2010, specifically by a lady who's an occultist, and it was an idea that phonetically linked terminology, right? So they would say, "Oh, saying amen is phonetically sounds like Amun Ra, so you must be giving some sort of invocation to Ra." Like
Yeah.
it's that shallow, bro. It's that bad. So historians
Ison's
have
terrible.
debunked. Yeah, they'll say that Jesus is somehow connected to Osiris because of some phonetics, and it's just bad.
And
It's bad.
Mithra, and then they get all the stories wrong, and they mix it all
Yeah.
up, and it got me though.
Yeah.
Like temporarily, I just watched it, and I was like, "That's pretty crazy." I wasn't like a real deal believer at that point, you know. Like I had
And
fallen
some of the
away
most
from
hilarious. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
just fallen away, and my buddy who was atheist wanted me to watch it, and I'm like, if everything they said in the story was true, and the movie was true, you would be like, "This is pretty crazy." It's not. It's not only do they reach, but like they actually lie. They make stuff
Yeah.
up in there. That, yeah. Crazy. Obviously, it means it is finished. Yeah. Jeremy McGarry. This is awesome. Watching Austin learn the information Sean is sharing for the first time. Keep up the good work. Thank you for the very generous $50 tip, Jeremy McGarry. And yeah, like I've seen here and there. You know, I've seen here and there. I've seen like a decent amount, but it's like here and there. I haven't
It's a
watched them
lot,
in
man.
order.
It's a lot. It's like I said, the first series, 21 parts, 33 plus hours. We actually offer like people buy it from us on a USB drive, and we'll mail it out to them. But it's just a lot. It takes, if you weren't there for like the live events when it was happening 2 years ago, and you didn't like watch it as it progressed, because nobody knew what I was talking about. Um, Nobody knew like I was about to reveal, hey, by the way, I'm putting forward this theory that the home of Satan is literally a sphere in the sky that's going to be thrown down 42 months before the return of Christ. So they didn't know that for like the first 18 episodes. So people were just digging the idea of learning about ancient history and how it correlates with the scriptures. But then like in episode 19, 20, and 21, I gave the grand finale and people were freaking out. Like some people thought it was brilliant. Other people thought it was, they started mocking it. But I waited like I waited 4 almost 5 years to talk about it on my channel. So before I started my channel in 2018, I already had everything you heard tonight. Like I already understood, had theorized, and concluded these ideas. But I just knew I just want to talk about the Bible and like help people, follow Christ and get their lives cleaned up. You know what I'm saying? And get some wisdom. I don't want to talk. This is like, to me, this topic is like it's like cake. You know what I mean? It's not meat, the meat of the word. It's like all the sugary stuff. Like that's just amazing. That's fun to have. But it's like you say, it's gravy, you know what I mean? But it's not like the meats. Like the meat is there's a definitive way to behave in this life. Christ exemplified it for us. Put your faith in him, act like him. He'll give you eternal life. It's that simple. He'll take you into the Garden of Eden, which is the return of the New Jerusalem. So like it's that simple. That's the meat of the word, right? Understanding that very basic concept. All this peripheral stuff that breaks down the occult and the deceptions, that's like the gravy, That
For sure.
and,
For
and
sure.
people can't live off that. They need the meat first. So we spent like almost 5 full years going over the scriptures and giving them the meat first before I started talking about this stuff.
I totally get it. And it's still cool though because there's so much information. Like he didn't leave us hanging. You know, like the creator did not leave us hanging. Like we were born into a very entertaining world, man. Um, yeah, that's cool. I have to find a way to catch all the way up. And then the problem is also I don't remember which ones I have or haven't seen. You know, so it's like I'll have to start
Yeah.
watching them again. Uncle Giblets, thanks for the stream. Excited for the debate review part 2. I'm wondering, do you have any advice for some soon-to-be parents? Thank you for the $50 tip. I can let you want to throw in something too, but I would say um, be really patient with each other and expect there to be like a tough transitional period when it comes to sleeping and stuff, and because the baby doesn't care about your sleep pattern, I'll just let you know. And just obviously, you guys are a team, so like when you're really tired and you're getting frustrating, you could get frustrated with each other. Just try to, I would say, to try to focus on that and remember that you're a team. And I don't know where you live or if you live close to family, but family helping is always good.
Yeah, for real.
We didn't particularly have a huge amount of that luxury actually, but we pulled it off. And yeah, obviously there's like a million other little bitty pieces of advice when it comes to what to do with the baby and stuff like that. But I would say just enjoy it and just always just think about the positives when you get upset. Try to work as a team and help. Okay, whoever's having the baby, you got to have their back, especially when they're about to have the baby, especially after they have the baby. Right after they have the baby, they're in recovery mode and not just physically necessarily, and that's what I would say. Yeah, and
I
you
like
just had
all
a
that.
baby.
We did. Yeah, I'm still not getting sleep. In fact, I have to go really soon because my shift is coming up in like 20 minutes. So I've got the night shift.
Here you
So
go.
would
I had the
recommend
night shift
that.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did.
So
Yeah.
like I try to work in between. Unfortunately, little man, Levi, he's not sleeping like more than 3 or 4 hours at a time. So pray. I would say right now, pray that God blesses you with the baby that sleeps through the night. But if not, go work in shifts so that you both can get at least 6 hours of sleep a night. Might be difficult if you work a job where you got to get up at 7 in the morning or whatnot, but do your best. And everything else that Witsit said is spot on.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we had to do that. We had to work in shifts, and I was doing the night shift. So I was doing a bunch of stuff from our streams or presentations or whatever I could do work wise at night while I
Yeah.
was like keeping an eye on her and stuff. All right. Yeah, thank you for the tip. We'll run through these. We're almost done here. Very crazy generous donation, $200. Thank you so much.
That's awesome.
Yosh Yoshiyahu. I'm mispronouncing what your name is.
Yoshiyahu.
Yoshiyahu.
Actually, it means the righteousness of God. Did you know that Yoshi in Japanese actually means righteousness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always just think of when I hear Yoshi, I just think of the green
Yoshi,
dinosaur
Mario.
character. Yeah. Thank you. That's so crazy generous. I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. I really enjoy all your content. You did great on InfoWars. I'm so glad you interacted with Sean, and I think it's a great crossover subject to what you focus on. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much, man. And yeah, dude, I'm a big fan of Sean, bro. Sean's my go-to guy if I have a question a lot of the times about the scriptures, and my go-to guy I send people to. So, but thank you so
Yeah,
much. That's very generous.
if he has sent you to me and I haven't been able to respond to your email, I'm sorry. I get more than I can respond to every day, and so I have to like. Sometimes I just can't get to them all. I'm sorry. So
Fair. I
I'll do
tell
my
them to go
best.
watch your content. I know how that goes. I know how it goes to give them like I'll never catch up with my messages. So I don't say like go email Sean. I say here's a playlist, here's a video you should watch or whatever. But trust me, I know how that goes, man. You need like 50 secretaries, but they can't. That doesn't work because you have to. It's you. You have to. I get it.
Yeah, they can't. They
Um,
can't pull all the scriptural references as fast as I can, or even they may not know them. So because
and you don't want them to say something wrong and like.
yeah, I don't want them to like lead someone the wrong direction. And sometimes we do not advertise as offering marital advice. So like if people email me and be like, "Oh, we're having this issue with my wife or my husband," and I'm like, I don't even respond. We do not. We've publicly said for years we're not trained counselors or therapists. You should find someone qualified in that area. If you want to know something about the scriptures, I can do my best to help you, but I can't give you personal or marital advice.
There you go.
I'll pray you find good counsel for someone that's qualified.
Nice. Do you think the Milky Way is a crack in the firmament that the waters fell from during the flood, and could planets be portals or doors that spirits or angels come and go? Bushido. What do you think about that?
I
That's a
don't.
lot.
I think First Enoch, like I said tonight, First Enoch 72 through 82, it talks about the placement of the stars and their rotation in the heaven, the circumference of the heaven above. And I think that there's actually angels that are assigned to watch over both the sun, moon, and stars. And there's like a whole, list of angels that watch over the sun and others that watch over the stars. I mean, so the angels have jobs. They're not just up there chilling doing nothing. Like the scriptures describe myriads upon myriads that would, if the conversions are correct, that would be millions upon millions of angels that are designed not just to come to the earth to help mankind, but also to see over the creation as a part of their job. So that's how literal it is, Austin. Like I said earlier, the average Christian is told not to think literally about the heaven and the earth and God and the angels. But according to First Enoch, it's so literal. The sun has a certain amount of angels assigned to it to make sure it's going through the gates at the proper seasons of the year. Think about that for a minute. Like, you got a dude, he's like a train guy pulling the switch on the tracks, making sure the sun goes through the right gate so that it can make sure the seasons are in the right order. Like, these are highly trusted entities that are super smart, been around since day one. Literally, that's when they were created, on day one of creation. And they're all of it, all the entire creation model and all the angels are serving you. That's the crazy part that humanity doesn't seem to grasp.
It is crazy.
Like, they're keeping the creation model working because it's their job, commissioned by the Father, the creator of all, so that you can have lights down upon the earth, sun, moon, and stars, so that you can have wind patterns, so that you can have blessing and crop in due season. So, I mean, it's amazing I think when it's all said and done, and like we get to the judgment and we realize just how much was done for us, it's going to be so humbling, you know?
I can't even imagine, because you can just look at the stars and feel that way. That's how I feel.